Have you ever met Tucker?
We've talked a lot. Twitter. If I ever meet him, he's the worst person.
There you have it. Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw saying on a hot mic that he will effing kill Tucker Carlson. And he says, I'm not joking. Which you should remember as I give you the details of how Tucker Carlson responded to this and what Dan Crenshaw later said. So this was after an interview that took place last week. Texas Representative Dan Crenshaw was caught on that hot mic saying what he said about Tucker Carlson. The interview was published on February 20th, but the clip was only just revealed. Now, when asked to comment by Marjorie Taylor Greene, Crenshaw denied the incident, which again is on video, and he said he wasn't joking. So here's Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, "Did you threaten to kill my friend, Tucker Carlson?" Dan Crenshaw simply says, "LOL, no." It's so embarrassing, it's so embarrassing.
Wait, hold on. He wasn't joking in the original video. Maybe that was a joke.
No.
It was, he said LOL, which is a thing people say when they're joking. Why are you trying to make comedy illegal?
Oh my God. Okay, so look, I honestly have not been following or had not been following Dan Crenshaw's beef with Tucker Carlson, but the beef has been happening, okay?
Simmering.
It's been simmering, it's been sizzling, it's been seared. So the feud seems to have started back in 2022 when Carlson said this.
The bad arguments that our side is making is very depressing, and they're almost pro-Russia. People are saying, well, we can't put baby formula on our shelves, but we're sending money to Ukrainians. And my response to that is, you know how much baby formula you can buy with $40 billion? None. None, because it's not a money issue, it's a manufacturing issue. It is not America first when you let Russia and China do whatever they want around the world and establish their version of a global order. That puts America last, because we cannot prosper in a global order led by Russia and China.
Yeah. Do you have any idea what you're talking about, Dan Crenshaw? No. But the point is, anyone who disagrees with Dan Crenshaw is pro-Russia, frankly. Well, frankly, Dan Crenshaw is attempting to deflect from answering obvious questions like why the concern over Ukraine's borders and no concern about the border of your own state, Texas. You know, the more I think about it, it takes a lot of gall for Eye Patch McCain to attack moms who are worried about baby formula as, quote, pro-Russia. I mean, that's probably one of the most outrageous things I think I've ever heard.
Okay.
That's not what he did at all.
Okay.
That's wildly intellectually dishonest.
I really don't want to get sidetracked with, adjudicating who's right and who's wrong in this, Republican on Republican violence. But I will say this. He was right about the baby formula. It was a manufacturing issue. There was bacteria getting into the baby formula, and there's a monopoly in terms of manufacturers of baby formula. And so they had to shut down manufacturing, thus lowering supply for baby formula, emptying it had nothing to do with sending money to Ukraine. You can have total disagreement with the US foreign policy in regard to Ukraine. You could say you don't want to send money to Ukraine, but that is a separate issue from the baby formula issue, separate, completely separate. So he was right about that.
And pointing that out does not attack the moms, it attacks the pundits who try to imply that those things are connected.
Exactly. So I disagree with Tucker Carlson's take there, but let's get to what has happened. Now, Carlson has gone after Dan Crenshaw repeatedly in the years since. He has called Crenshaw a committed neoliberal. True, but aren't you neoliberal too? I know in recent years Tucker Carlson pretends like he's not, but he had no problem with the tax cuts and the austerity measures that the Republican Party had been taking for decades. Anyway, but I'll continue. He's also said that Dan Crenshaw is the most left-wing person I've ever met in Congress. And even asked why isn't Dan Crenshaw bagging groceries at Walmart? Okay, so Crenshaw was asked about Carlson's views.
Because F people who bag groceries in Walmart, in case it wasn't clear, Tucker Carlson. Why does he get like a good, respectable job? Why does he have one of the cheap, stupid peasant jobs that I don't give a damn about? Says Tucker Carlson, the populist.
A lib, defending Crenshaw. I guess Crenshaw must be a lib.
Yeah. I'm not as left as Dan Crenshaw in Congress, obviously.
Obviously. Okay, now Crenshaw was asked about Carlson's views on the Ukraine and Russia thing. Here's what he had to say.
Just coming back to this $100 billion to Ukraine, I know that people like Tucker Carlson will make the argument that there's a real opportunity cost there. We could have spent that money on the border or fixing, issues in America. Yeah. What do you make of that argument that all this money could have been spent to help Americans and not Ukrainians?
Well, you can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. We spend 75-80% of our budget on a welfare state in America, on Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. I would love to ask Tucker what he thinks that $100 billion should be spent on, and if he would vote for it as a conservative. Tucker doesn't know what he's talking about. Tucker likes to visit Moscow and talk about how great the grocery stores are. So I don't really take his advice very seriously.
And then, of course, as he was still mic'd, he talked about how he would effing kill Tucker Carlson and said, I'm not joking. I really don't like Dan Crenshaw. I just want to be clear about that. Even though, we just talked about how Tucker Carlson was misrepresenting his argument. What Crenshaw said there about, basically wanting to cut social safety net programs. Yeah,
they both suck.
Yeah, I loathe both of them. Okay, but anyway. But in response to Crenshaw's threat against him, Carlson posted the following. Why don't you come sit for an interview and we'll see how you do. I'll send you my address. So obviously Tucker Carlson is not afraid of Dan Crenshaw. That was why he said, I'll send you my address. Let's do an interview, whatever. How embarrassing is it when you say that you'll effing kill him and you're not joking, and then when you're asked about it, you cower and say, LOL, no. Like, there's no winner here.
Yeah,
only losers.
He obviously didn't mean it. He was actually joking. It's just, they're both terrible. I don't think they're terrible on the same level. I think that Tucker Carlson is 1,000 times more terrible than Crenshaw. Crenshaw's bad on policy and is a massive goofball, I think. But Tucker Carlson, I think, is a more regularly willful, out of his mind conspiracy theorist and liar. He's one of the biggest propagandists that Fox News ever churned out. He despises Donald Trump, but he runs his show with a different character who loves Donald Trump for literally years. He has no respect for his audience whatsoever. And so they're both bad, I don't think, on the same level. But no, he didn't mean that he wanted to kill him. And do you think that Marjorie Greene would care if he had said, yeah, Anderson Cooper, if I ever see him, I'm gonna kill him? You think Marjorie Greene would be like all aggrieved on Twitter about it? She doesn't care about that. She makes violent threats constantly.
But Tucker Carlson does wear a plaid button-down shirt for his show. And he is a warrior for working class Americans as a result.
Yeah, you know where he doesn't buy that shirt is Walmart, because screw those people. Oh, he sucks so bad. And by the way, I don't watch, like, ever since he left Fox News, I know he has his podcast and I'm sure he's doing great. I don't have to see him really at all. Watching that video is reminded of how terrible he is. The weird voices and like the lies are so over the top. Like, do you have not one shred of respect for your audience? And I guess he didn't have to, because he generated a big audience, he was paid tons of money. He just spits in these people's face for an hour a night, and they, for some reason, love it.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.